Order. PetMeds, empowering you to help your pets live longer, healthier lives.
What's up, Dub Nation? Do you want to get cash back on Warriors gear? All you have to do is sign up at Rakuten.com/Warriors, where you can earn 10% cash back in store and online at Warriors Shop. Once you're a member, shop your favorite stores like Fanatics and Ticketmaster and watch the cash back add up in your account. Rakuten is the most rewarding way for you to shop and maximize your savings. Join Rakuten for free today at Rakuten.com/Warriors or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
Hey, Dub Nation. If you're traveling to cheer on the Warriors this season, then the most important thing to pack is the United Airlines app. You can track your bags, change your flight or your seat, get a personalized map of the airport terminal, even talk to a live customer service agent. It's like having a travel agent in the palm of your hand for free. And yeah, that technically makes it a free agent. Download the United app and book your next trip today. United, proud to be the official airline of the Golden State Warriors.
You live for this. The wins, the losses, the slam dunks, and the buzzer beaters. The dream that this is your team's year. Hope, it's what keeps you coming back. So you represent with anticipation and with pride. Because when everything's on the line, your support means everything. That's why the NBA Store is here to support you. Check out the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
To Curry, pump fake, flyby, three ball. Got it with the buzzer sounding!
You've been listening to Golden State Warriors basketball on the Warriors Radio Network. Presented by United Airlines. For tickets, visit Warriors.com or call 888-GSW-HOOP.
You wish you were here.
This Odyssey Sports broadcast has been brought to you by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico. The lights are out.
Curry gets it, the lights go out. Santos has it. Shot clock is turned off, and that should be that. The Golden State Warriors will get to one game above 500 as they start a very difficult 6-game road trip with a flight to OKC tomorrow as this tough part of the schedule to start the year continues. Final score tonight, Golden State 114 and Indiana 83. Pacers will fall to 1-9, and they head for Salt Lake City.
Yeah, much needed win. Absolutely right. The Warriors had to have this game. As far as games on November 9th go, this probably was the most must-win kind of November 9th game possible. And the Warriors, they got the job done. It was a little hairy there for a bit. They ultimately win by 31 points, 114-83 the final, but it was pretty darn close for the majority of this game. It was 65-65 with 3:30 left in the third quarter. This was a tie game. Chase Center, there was some nervous energy running through the crowd. The Warrior fans did not really know how to react. And then ultimately the Warriors turn it on. They go on a 10-0 run to close the third quarter. That run continues into the fourth. Ultimately, they run away with it in the fourth quarter. Final score again, 114-83. So they got the job done. Probably was a little more nerve-wracking than it had to be through three quarters. But a win is a win. That's all that matters. You improve to 6-5. You're back above 500. Now you're likely going to get Steph Curry back on Tuesday. And you go out on the road trip for 6 games and you see what your record is after those 6. Welcome in. It's Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you live from Chase Center. Ready to take your calls, your texts, your comments, 888-957-9570. That's the number to call. It is also the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line. I got the text line up as we speak. Shout out to the 307, the 707, another 707, and a couple of others who are chiming in. And then I also have our YouTube chat up, and you can always join the conversation on YouTube, youtube.com/957 The Game. Everything we do on YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. I see you, D. Lou. I see you, Dublin Marge. I see you, Filmo. I see you, Pierce. I see you, Apollo. And I see a few others chiming in. Keep the chats coming on the YouTube. We got a lot to get into today because this was a Warrior win. That was absolutely necessary. No excuse. It did not matter what happened in this game. You had to win this basketball game. It would have been disaster radio had the Warriors lost today. The Indiana Pacers are down just about their entire team. And I'm not really joking. They're down, let's count them up. Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, Aaron Nesmith, Benedict Mathurin, TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, Quentin Jackson, and Johnny Furphy. Those are 8 guys. Johnny Furphy, probably not like a normal rotation guy when they're fully healthy, and maybe not Quentin Jackson either, although the way that he played versus the Warriors in Indiana 8 days ago would suggest that he is. But those other guys, those other 6, are not just rotation guys. You got like 4 starters in there with those guys that were injured. So there's absolutely no reason for the Warriors to lose today. They found a way to win. They won by 31. They did more than found a way to win, but it was, again, tight through 3 quarters. But, before you even dive into what went well, what went wrong, where can they improve, what's their biggest issues going forward, you just got to get the win today, and then you move on. And that's what the Warriors did. They're now 6-5. You very easily could be 7-4 or even 8-3 if you took care of business against teams that were injured earlier, like Milwaukee and Indiana a little more than a week ago. But you'll take the win today. Your fingers crossed that you're going to get Steph back coming up on Tuesday in Oklahoma City, and then you go from there. You do have a really tough road trip coming up, but you absolutely had to fly out to OKC tomorrow, feeling good about yourselves, and tonight's win is going to do that for the Warriors. You absolutely had to have it. You were 1-4 in your last 5. You get this win, you're back above 500. At least you're feeling better about yourselves going into Oklahoma City, and then 2 games against San Antonio, and that's just the beginning of that road trip. So we shall see how the Warriors fare on the road. That's all coming up next week. But tonight was job one and job well done for the Warriors in this one. Warriors were down Steph. They started Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Quentin Post, but it was uneven through 2.5 quarters, really 2 3/4 quarters. Until the 3.5-minute mark of the third quarter, this game was even at 65 apiece. So what happened for the Warriors to close that third quarter on a 10-0 run, and then to ultimately close this game on, let's see here, I have it written down. The Warriors, 10-0 run to close the third quarter. Ultimately, they closed the game over the final 15.5 minutes of basketball, the full fourth quarter, and the final 3.5 of the third. Over the final 15.5 minutes of basketball, the Warriors outscored the Pacers 49-18. 49-18 over a little more than a quarter of basketball. That was complete and total domination. Jimmy Butler took over. He had himself a really, really good game, probably his best game of the season. He was really good against Denver. He was pretty good against the Lakers early in the season as well. But this was a game specifically when the Warriors didn't really have much else going. He kind of began the Warriors' run. But you also got contributions from a number of other players. Al Horford, much like Jimmy Butler, who was also very good against Denver, Al Horford had kind of struggled other than that Denver game early in the season. He had, I think, maybe his best game as a Warrior. If not his best, his second best game. He made 4 threes, 4 for 6 from deep. He was a perfect 3 for 3 from deep in the second half, including 2 big threes in the fourth quarter. He scored 12 points. All of his field goals were threes. Also was good defensively with 3 blocks, and he changed a number of other shots. Al Horford was a big part of that Warrior run. Moses Moody kind of had a rough shooting night to begin. Then he hit the 4-point play to close the third quarter. That was a gigantic momentum shifter. Instead of being up by 6, or who knows, if you don't get that bucket to go, maybe Indiana scores on the other end. But even if it's just take away the 4 points, you're either up 6 or up 10 going into the fourth quarter. That is a gigantic difference. Moses Moody also chipped in more points in the fourth quarter. And then the other, I think, that I got to shout out for making a major impact in that run, it's Will Richard. Will Richard was really, really good again today, specifically late third and early fourth quarter. He did not play the entire first quarter again. Kind of feels like Steve Kerr is treating him as we're going to give other guys chances, and if they play well, Will isn't going to get his chance. If they don't, then I'm going to turn to Will, and we'll see how Will performs. I think we're at the point where you just got to skip that and say, Will, you're in the rotation no matter what. Here are first quarter minutes consistently, and we'll go from there. We can talk more about that later, but Will Richard was awesome in this game as well. Solid as always defensively, staying in front of ball handlers, and then just the well-timed cuts. He's a really crafty finisher around the rim, which I didn't really know about him. And he gets his hands in passing lanes, and he's just overall always in the right spot at the right time. I thought Will Richard was very good in this game. And then you think about team-wide things, and then we'll go to the phones here coming up in just a second, 888-957-9570. The Warriors turned the ball over 10 times. The Pacers turned it over 22 times. Those 22 Pacer turnovers led to 28 Warrior points. The 10 Warrior turnovers led to just 14 points for the Pacers. That's a major, major plus for the Warriors. You turned the ball over 12 fewer times than your opponents, and you got to the free throw line 26 more times. The Pacers were 8 for 11 from the free throw line. The Warriors were 26 for 37. You were plus 18 at the stripe in this game, and that's the ball game right there. That is the ball game. You dominate the free throw line. You dominate the turnover battle. Even though you don't shoot that well, 43%, you still outshot Indiana. That all adds up to a win. It wasn't as easy as those stats make it seem, because those stats got very lopsided in the fourth quarter, but those trends were still there through the first three quarters as well. The Warriors just started playing well in other facets in the fourth quarter to really run away with this one. All right. 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. 888-957-9570. It's Mark Randy with you here on Warriors Wrap-Up, live from Chase Center as we react to this 114-83 Warriors win. The Dubs now 6-5 as they head out on the road for a 6-game road trip. Up first is Galileo in Fremont, who wants to talk about Al Horford. What's up, Galileo? You're on Warriors Wrap-Up.
Yeah, I thought Al Horford's having a lot of shots from in and out, but today was the night where he got a couple of blocks, and he looked like he had energy from the beginning and was playing good defense.
Yeah, absolutely, Galileo. And it's very thanks for the call. Appreciate you weighing in. I think you're spot on about Al Horford, and it's the same exact thing that Steve Kerr said last week. I believe it was on Thursday. On this very station, on 95.7 The Game, he said, I'm not worried about Al Horford at all. The only thing that's happening with Al is his shots aren't falling. And we know that he's a good shooter. Those shots are eventually going to fall. Now, it's easy to look back on that comment now and say, well, of course, absolutely, Steve Kerr was right, because Al Horford had a really good game today. He was, maybe behind Jimmy Butler, reason number 2 why the Warriors went off on that run spanning the end of the third and the start of the fourth quarter. He made 4 threes in this game. 3 of them were in the second half, 1 in the third, 2 in the fourth. They were all part of this Warrior run. He was huge, and what he did defensively was big as well. There were a number of times, maybe not a number, a couple of times where he ran down the floor defensively, trying to take away a fast break opportunity for Indiana. One time I think he did get a block in semi-transition. The other time he didn't, but he affected the shot, and it was a miss, led to a Warrior rebound. They ran down the other way. This wasn't just, old man Al Horford hang out at the rim and wait for a guy to come to you and try to block it. He was actually out there moving, and moving pretty good. Despite the fact that he was questionable coming into this game with foot soreness. So great to see from Al Horford. I think, if you know the kind of player that Al Horford is, obviously the impact is going to be inconsistent just because he's not going to play in every game. But when he's out there, I do think over the course of an entire season, his impact is going to be by far more positive than negative. The reason why it hadn't really been clicking with him on the floor just yet this season is because his shot hadn't been falling. He had a good shooting night versus Denver. He had a good shooting night tonight. We'll see if that kind of gets him going. I know the Denver game was a couple of weeks ago. I'm not really talking about that one, but this game tonight gets his shot going, because the Warriors are going to need this on this road trip coming up. Again, at OKC on Tuesday, in San Antonio the next day for a back-to-back. Then they have an off day in San Antonio on Thursday. They play in San Antonio again Friday. Then New Orleans and Orlando and Miami, all those also on the road. That is the 6-game road trip, particularly in those first 3 games of this road trip. OKC, San Antonio. You will need Al Horford, and Al Horford hitting his threes would be very, very important in those games. Of course, he's not going to play both the OKC and San Antonio back-to-back. The Warriors will decide which one he plays and which one he sits out. I don't know. I mean, OKC's got some bigs, too, with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. I would venture to guess the Warriors would feel maybe Al Horford could be more impactful playing both games versus San Antonio, but we shall see how they decide to play this. He's only going to play in one of those games, either in OKC or San Antonio. He will be playing unless there's something else that happens in that second San Antonio game on Friday after the off day. But whichever 2 of the 3 games that he plays in, the Warriors will need him to perform well, because the Warriors are a much better team when Al Horford's shot is falling and when he is impacting shots down low. That was evident today in this one. 888-957-9570 if you got thoughts, questions, comments about this Warrior win, 114-83. I thought that this was a Warrior game where the offense really was begging for the Warriors to kind of change their strategy a little bit. The offense was ugly. There's no other way to put it. Through almost 3 full quarters, this game was tough to watch. In the first half, the Warriors scored 48 points. They shot 37% from the field, and they were 5 for 21 from deep. They were better than that in the second half, and specifically in the fourth quarter when they took over and scored 39 points. But it also, those numbers in the first half also, I don't even think tell the full story. They scored 48 points. They were 16 for 43 from the field. But they scored 7 points in the final 2.5 minutes of the first half. They got on a little bit of a run to close the half. Ultimately, they were leading by 7 points at the half, and you felt, all right, they haven't taken control of this game, but they feel like they're in a good spot. They closed the half on a little bit of a run, up by 7, just come out of the gate strong in the third, and this game will be over. That ultimately did not happen. The Pacers came out and began the second half on a 21-13 beginning. They took a 1-point lead with about 4.5 to go in the third, but even before we get to that, I want to focus on a few possessions at the very end of the first half, because I think this just spelled out exactly how the Warriors need to operate without Steph Curry. And I'm talking specifically on offense, although of course offense, defense are related. I think when the Warriors have Steph Curry on the floor, they run the offense that they've been running for the entirety of Steve Kerr's tenure, right? We're talking about 10-plus years. Steve Kerr is the head coach of the Warriors. This is his 11th year as the head coach of the Warriors. But, you're trying to run an offense that is geared around the presence of Steph. And when Steph's out, it still feels like the Warriors are trying to run that same offense. And for the life of me, I can't really understand it, because it's almost like you're trying to, fit a square peg into a round hole. And I don't think that's the best thing for this roster, again, in moments where you don't have Steph Curry. The first half was really, really ugly with this unit of Warriors players trying to run motion offense. And, they were creating some good looks here and there, but largely it's for, non-existent shooters. The Warriors don't have a ton of shooters without Steph Curry on the floor still, especially if Buddy Hield's shot isn't falling. If and before tonight, Al Horford's shot wasn't falling. Jimmy Butler's been good from 3 so far this year, but no one would mistake him for a 3-point shooter. Same thing with Draymond Green. Podziemski's really going through a shooting slump right now. Moses Moody hit some big ones in the second half, but his shot wasn't falling in the first half. Kuminga is settling for a lot of threes today, by the way. He was 1 for 9 from the field and 0 for 5 from downtown. I just felt like the Warriors need some adjustment without Steph. And I get it's hard because you're planning your season around having Steph, and you're going to spend most of your time planning around Steph being available, and you want to maximize that, and that makes total sense. But I do think there has to be some sort of meaningful adjustment for those moments, not just when Steph isn't on the floor, because I think that's different, like in a game when Steph is resting versus going into a game knowing I don't have Steph tonight. And I think we saw just a very simple change at the end of the first half, and then it happened again as the Warriors kind of began to pull away in this game. Now, in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, they just also started hitting threes, and that is, that's going to solve a lot of your ailments. It's going to fix a lot of things. Even if it's bad offense, you get bailed out by making tough three-pointers. It looks like good offense. It could still really be bad offense. I don't think that was the case for the Warriors tonight. But just because you're hitting shots does not mean the execution or the process was good. But I think the process needs to change when the Warriors are without Steph. And we saw this on a 4-possession stretch late in the first half. The Warriors had 41 points. They were shooting like sub 35% from the field, and they just were looking for anything to work offensively. And then what did they do? On 4 consecutive possessions, they get Kuminga with a switch. I believe it was Ben Shepherd who was switched on to Jonathan Kuminga. They post Kuminga up. They notice the mismatch, and they say, all right, JK, we're throwing this into you on the post. Go get us a bucket. Kuminga, as he should, aggressively backs Shepherd down, draws a foul, doesn't get the shot to go, but draws the foul. He ended up splitting the free throws, but that's okay. It's about the process and the decisions and the way in which you're trying to get shots. And that led to a point. He split the free throws, but it was a good possession. You got a very, very high percentage opportunity, and it turned into free throws. Next possession, they bring Draymond on a screen. Jimmy Butler's the ball handler, and they get a switch. I forget who was guarding Draymond and then who switched on to Jimmy, but it was a taller, slower guy, allowing Jimmy Butler to then isolate after the screen. He just tells everybody else to get the hell away from me, and Jimmy Butler drives into the paint for an easy lay-in. Next possession, same exact thing. Jimmy Butler gets a switch, isolation ball, drive past your guy, and get a bucket. And then the next possession, which was one of the Warriors' last possessions of the half, it was a Kuminga post-up, this time against Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, who was a bigger body, but a guy who Kuminga feels pretty good that he can attack. And he backed him down from like the free throw line, got a couple of bumps on him as he's backing him down with the dribble, and then just hits the little 7-foot fall away jumper, and he's good from that distance on that shot. It's one of his best, high efficiency shots, and he got it to go. That was 7 points for the Warriors in 1 minute of basketball. 1 minute of basketball. 1 minute of basketball, they scored 7 points right there. And that might not sound like a lot in today's NBA, but given that the Warriors had just 41 points in almost like 23 minutes of basketball before that, that's a pretty big jump in just efficiency, possession to possession. And I think that's kind of what the Warriors' offense has to look like without Steph, specifically when the shots from the outside aren't falling. It's just, all right, either we're hunting a mismatch, and Kuminga is kind of target number one on that because of his mix of quickness and athleticism, and he certainly gained a lot of confidence with the beginning to the season that he's had, although tonight largely what was an unsuccessful game for Kuminga. We can talk about that as we go along as well. But I think without Steph, if shots from Moody and Podziemski and Kuminga and Horford and Hield, those aren't falling from the outside, you just have to be stubborn and say, all right, if there's a mismatch for Kuminga, we're throwing it into him. If not, let's get a switch onto Jimmy Butler's guy, and Jimmy, drive. We'll get out of your way. You drive. We'll time a nice cut, but, we want you to finish the bucket yourself. That's kind of what happened at the end of the first quarter, the end of the first half. And then the Warriors, they got back into that again late third quarter and for the beginning of the fourth. What also happened in that stretch was their threes started falling, and that was the big difference maker as why this went from a 65-65 game to a 114-83 game. Warriors ultimately outscored the Pacers 49-18 over the final 15-plus minutes. It was domination for the Warriors down the stretch. Really, really good fourth quarter for Golden State, and they ultimately used that to win again by 31 points, 114-83. 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. Again, that's 957-9570. You absolutely had to have this win, and you got it. Dub Nation, how do you feel about this performance today? I want to remind you, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries, always live on the free Odyssey app, coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. The Warriors had to have this one. There's no doubt about it. It was a little scary, though, for a while. Again, it was 65-65 through essentially three quarters, and then a very quick 10-0 run for the Warriors to close the third quarter. It made a gigantic difference. That 10-0 run, by the way, was Buddy Hield free throws, a Horford three-pointer from the top of the key, Moses Moody split a pair of free throws, and then a Moses Moody 4-point play late in the shot clock from the right corner, right in front of the Warriors bench. That probably was the loudest moment inside of Chase Center tonight. It got Steph Curry off the bench. Steph Curry, by the way, did not play tonight, has missed his third consecutive game. Warriors just won their first game of the season without Steph. They're now 1-2. But the previous two games, I know they weren't at home, but Steph was not with the team. He did not travel to Sacramento, did not make the bus ride east to Sacramento, and did not make the flight to Denver. So good that Steph Curry is feeling well enough to join the team on the bench tonight. And all indications are that he's going to play for the Warriors on Tuesday. I was listening into Steve Kerr's post-game presser before I hopped on the air here, and Steve Kerr said, quote, "We're expecting Steph to be back Tuesday." The Warriors said pregame that Steph was going through a workout tonight and will again tomorrow. Steve, when asked about that workout tonight for Steph Curry, said he hadn't heard anything specifically, but given that Steph was with them on the bench, he figured it must have gone pretty well. And he did say again, quote, "We're expecting Steph to be back on Tuesday," and that's big because OKC is the opponent on Tuesday in OKC, and then you got two games against San Antonio after that. So good news there for the Warriors. There's no doubt. But it really was, I think, the Warriors just turning to Jimmy Butler and saying, Jimmy, we're going to need you to do the heavy lifting tonight. And that's kind of a sticking point, I think, for a lot of Warrior fans. I mean, let's bring up his game log here, specifically last three games without Stephen Curry on available. That's the... Of course, Jimmy Butler did not play in Sacramento. I forgot about that for a moment. But last two games, Jimmy has played, both of them without Steph. In Denver on Friday, he got 10 shots up, made 5 of them. He was 5 of 10 from the field, 0 for 3 from downtown, scored 16 points. Wasn't really that involved elsewhere, had just 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Tonight, though, a big difference. It's not just about the field goal attempt numbers, although that is big. I think I sat here on Friday night and told you if I'm the Warriors going into a game in Denver versus a fully healthy Denver team, down Steph Curry, my plan is, Jimmy Butler, you better shoot like 15, 16, 17 times. And obviously you want them to be good looks. Don't just chuck up late shot clock threes from 35 feet out, but have the ball in your hands a lot. That's, I think, the better way to put it, and that was the case today. Not only was it 5 more field goal attempts, it was 5 more high percentage field goal attempts. He was 10 for 15 from the field, and it was Jimmy Butler, the decision maker, with the ball in his hands almost every possession. And that's, I think, the adjustment the Warriors have to make. It's the cheat code they have with Jimmy Butler. He allows them to be able to at least stay afloat offensively without Steph Curry on the floor. We generally think of that in the short bursts of time when Steph rests in a game in which he's playing, but it is also true, or it needs to be true, in games that Steph does not play. And that was the case today. Again, it's not just about field goal attempts, although he put up 15 today, and he was 10 for 15, but he also had 9 boards and 7 assists. If you were listening to me on Warriors Live, I told you a number I like is Jimmy Butler over 5.5 assists tonight, because you can just tell in high-stakes Warrior games, not that this game individually was high-stakes, this is a really bad Indiana team considering their injuries, but knowing that the Warriors really wanted to win this game, they absolutely had to have this game at home versus a very injured Indiana team before you go out on the road versus really, really good teams. You're already kind of reeling. You're 1-4 in your last 5. Everything to me points to the Warriors taking this very seriously, desperately wanting this win. And when that's the case, when Steph isn't available and Jimmy is available, what just clicks in my head is, okay, get Jimmy the ball and let him go to work. And that will oftentimes lead to him scoring a lot of points. He had 21 today, not an amazing number, but it also just means Jimmy has every opportunity to set his teammates up, and that's what he did today with those 7 assists. So hopefully you followed along because a nice little hit there in this game. Jimmy Butler was the Warriors' best player, there's no doubt about it, and he got Moses Moody involved, he got Al Horford involved, and he got Will Richard involved as well. Really, really nice performance from the Warriors in this one. All right, 888-957-9570. You know what? Let's hear from Steve Kerr, because there's a couple of things Steve touched on that I want to react to, and I want you all to hear it. So, Cam, as long as we got Steve Kerr ready in the back, let's get ready to fire that one up. Steve Kerr addressing the media post-game here inside of Chase Center as the Warriors knocked off the Pacers 114-83. They win by 31 points, the Warriors do, despite the fact that it was tied 65-65 with about 3.5 to go in the third quarter. You're going to hear Steve talk about what changed late in that third quarter, leading to into the fourth quarter run where the Warriors outscored the Pacers by 39-18 in that fourth. It was a 49-18 run to close this game for the Warriors, spanning the third and fourth quarters. Here is Coach Kerr, Warriors head coach Steve Kerr, addressing the media here inside of Chase Center after tonight's Warriors win.
Steve, what was the biggest difference in that third quarter? Towards the end, that 10-0 run to end the third?
Well, we finally got some strung together some stops, and then we had good pace to the game. You know, Jimmy really took over the game at that point, but you know, we got some guys out there with him who were really cutting, moving. You know, Will Moses did a great job. I liked how Pat Spencer pushed the ball, and obviously Al, you know, knocking down some shots and blocking shots. Yeah, that was a good stretch, and that opened up the game for us finally.
Steve, Kuminga obviously having a breakthrough season up until the last couple games, and tonight, not so much. Your thoughts on what's going on there?
Just a tough night, you know. Every night is different, and wasn't his night, but you know, Tuesday could be his night. So you just got to keep playing.
You guys, you know, about to head out on this six.
Sorry?
You're about to head on this 6-game trip with a back-to-back right away, a couple back-to-backs on the trip. How do you feel? You know, you guys are kind of playing right now, and also just physically, where do you feel like you guys are at for what?
Yeah, I mean, we're not playing very well. Clearly, we had a great fourth quarter, end of third, and then fourth quarter, the ball started moving. There was some flow, and but overall, we haven't played real well. But I'm very confident in this team. It's going to be a tough trip, as you mentioned, 2 back-to-backs. We kind of felt like, you know, getting through this early part of the schedule in one piece, and you know, if we're healthy and you know, win our share of games, that it sets up the rest of the season well for us. So obviously we gave a couple games away, but all in all, we're pretty healthy, and you know, we're going to get there. I can picture, you know, the team. I can see what you know, what kind of team we're going to be, but we don't really have our identity yet.
Hello, Steve. Question for Canal Plus Africa. Back to Kuminga then. So you talked about tonight, but overall, how do you judge his beginning of this season that has been made of some ups and downs? And how different is he from last season already as a player, and when it comes to his melting with the team?
How different is who as a player?
Kuminga, from the last season.
Yeah. So yeah, as far as the you know, the season, the beginning of the season, you know, we feel like our record should be better. We you know, probably let a couple games slip away, but we're finding out a lot about our team. It's been great to see Will Richard play and, try to incorporate Al Horford, let him get comfortable. And then J.K. has done a really good job, here in the early season. Tonight wasn't his night, but, I think he's had a good start to the season. We're giving him more responsibility, guarding the ball. And he's showing the growth that we had hoped.
There's Steve Kerr post game after his Warriors knocked off the Pacers 114-83. He said a few interesting things. Number one, I think it was Anthony Slater, Warriors insider for ESPN, who asked the question, just you're heading out on the road trip, just in general, how do you feel about the way your team's playing? And Steve with a very blunt and honest answer. Overall, and this is a quote, overall we haven't played really well, but I'm confident in this team. He would later go on to say, quote, I can picture the team, I can see what we're going to be, but we don't really have our identity yet. I understand what he's talking about, and it's kind of hard to talk about that on the backs of what happened tonight, because tonight is without Steph, and of course everything the Warriors are is about Steph Curry. But there is no doubt, in my mind at least, that the way the Warriors have played now through 11 games, they're 6-5. I would expect them to be better in the final, they've played 11 games over the final 71 games of the regular season. We'll see how many wins that turns into. But the Warriors have a lot of room for growth, I will put it that way. Now, the elephant in the room is health. And if they're not healthy, if they miss Steph for a handful more games here and there, it's going to be a problem, a major issue. And the same can be said for Draymond and for Jimmy, although those guys are incredibly important, but less important than Steph, obviously. But I do hear and I do see what Steve is talking about. He also, at the very beginning there, when asked about the third quarter run, he shouted out the same guys that I mentioned right off the jump here on Warriors Wrap Up. He said Jimmy took over the game, which kind of was, what I think the game was calling for. Just, what? All right, our shots aren't falling. Jimmy, you might have to do this yourself. Just, we're giving the ball to you on every possession. We're going to clear a side for you. You can drive and you can finish if it's there, or you can drive and kick, and hopefully we make some threes. Al Horford made some threes. Moses Moody made some threes. Quentin Post made some threes, particularly early in the game. But he was one of the Warriors' better scorers in this game today as well. But then he also gave credit. I mentioned a couple of their names who made some threes, and Moses Moody and Al Horford. But he also credited Will Richard in this game as well. I do also think we need to talk about Will Richard. We're going to talk about Kuminga coming up as well, and what his night was tonight. And it was interesting because he hardly played in the second half at all. He began the second half because he's a starter. As he started the game, he started the second half. He played that stretch to begin the third quarter, then did not play again. We can talk about that as we continue. And if you want to weigh in, give me a call, 888-957-9570. That's also the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line, which I have up right now. Let's see, the 413 weighing in. The 925 is weighing in on Jonathan Kuminga. We will get to that as well. But the 414 mentions Will Richard. The 414 writes, Will Richard is the next breakout Warrior star, continuing to produce at a high level. For the life of me, I can't really understand the Will Richard rotation pattern. And I want to say something similar about Jonathan Kuminga. We'll get to that in just a little bit. Will Richard did not play until 9 minutes and 13 seconds left in the second quarter. Played the rest of that second quarter, so he was part of that little mini run at the end of the second quarter. He played 2 minutes only in the third quarter, so we're talking about over 3 quarters, Will Richard had played 8 minutes and 8 seconds. Over the course of 3 quarters of basketball, 8 minutes and 8 seconds. I know Will Richard is a rookie, and I know rookies are, They very easily, you have peaks and valleys in performances. I don't think Will Richard is necessarily that kind of rookie. There's a difference in being a rookie like a Kuminga or a Moody was when they were rookies. Now, they didn't get as much consistent playing time, I would venture to guess as Will Richard has so far now, because those are entirely different situations those players are running into. When Kuminga and Moody were rookies, the Warriors won a championship that year. So that's different than this year. But Will Richard, I think, because of his experience at the college level, not just playing for multiple years and being the same age as Kuminga is now, by the way, in Kuminga's 5th year and Will Richard's 1st year, it's also the level of play that he got in college, winning a national championship in April this past year. I don't think he's necessarily subjected to those kinds of big swings in effectiveness in his rookie year. He's also not the kind of player where you're going to say, all right, we need you to score 30 points, and that's the only way we're going to win. He's the kind of player, like, I kind of liken him to what GP2 was when the Warriors won the championship in 2022. GP2 was just a player who, no matter the situation, you throw him in there and he'd make something happen. Whether it was a deflection that led to a fast break dunk, or it was, stepping over from the weak side and swiping a ball away as they go up for a shot, or, surprisingly elevating and blocking a shot, or it was him running the floor and getting out for a fast break and a dunk, or it was him, cutting at the right moment off of a Steph Curry or Draymond drive, that resulting in a bucket. Like, that's what Will Richard looks like to me, and I think I've seen enough to where I'm convinced, and I'm putting him as part of my regular rotation going forward. He's already playing ahead of GP2. GP2 for the 2nd straight game only played today in garbage time. Only played in garbage time in Denver as well. That seems to be like pretty much set in stone. Something pretty significant would have to change in order for GP2 to move ahead of Will Richard in the rotation. I don't know if it necessarily means putting Will Richard ahead of Buddy Hield, because those guys do different things on the floor. You put Buddy Hield out there to run the floor and to make threes. Now, Buddy Hield's shot has kind of forgiven, or has kind of, he's lost it a little bit to begin this season. But, I mean, we know what Buddy Hield is. He'll catch fire and he'll win you a couple of games. That's going to happen. The Buddy Hield stretch is going to happen at some point, and when it happens, you're going to be grateful that he wasn't on the bench and you waste that performance. So you kind of have to live with these stretches for Buddy in order to take advantage of the good stretches. I also think it means when Steph Curry is back, and you don't have to rely on Podziemski to be one of your primary ball handlers for majority of games, I think it also could mean that Will Richard should take some minutes from Podziemski as well, because there is no doubt that the Warriors defensively are better when Will Richard is one of the guys defending perimeter ball handlers for the opponents. So I have a hard time thinking that the Warriors, it's a good decision for the Warriors to not play Will Richard in first quarters, to only have him play 8 minutes, Will Richard only played however many minutes it was through 3 quarters. I think I misspoke earlier. Will Richard only played 11 minutes and 21 seconds through 3 quarters. Like that does not seem like enough for me. I need more Will Richard, and I think it's much like, again, GP2 in 2022. When he's on the floor, good things tend to happen. And in his total of 19 and a half minutes tonight, he was a plus 19, which was tied for the 3rd best mark on this Warrior team tonight, behind Brandon Podziemski, who was, good in that regard in this game as well, and he scored 14 points, got a couple of shots to fall in the 4th quarter during that run, which was big. Largely still kind of a volume score. The 3-point shot has really left him of late. But 14 points for Podziemski, a plus 22. So was Moses Moody, a plus 22. Then Jimmy Butler and Will Richard, also a plus 19. Will Richard, interesting the way that his minutes are kind of shaken out right now. He continues to play like that. I don't think Steve Kerr is going to have any choice, but it's going to have to make him a regular and consistent part of his rotation, because this was now the 2nd straight game where he did not play in the first quarter, and he got his first opportunity kind of midway through the second, and it felt like if he didn't perform well in that stretch, he probably was not going to play again. Like the second quarter stretch where he got inserted was Steve Kerr throwing him a bone and saying, all right, Will, let's see what you got. And then Will played well, and Will continues to play. But if he struggled there to begin a game, it kind of feels like he wasn't going to get a chance again. I'm past that, personally. I'm past that. I have enough belief that Will Richard can consistently have a positive impact that I'm putting him out there and I'm letting him play through some things. If he struggles on his first, I'm trusting him again, and I'm putting him back out there, and I'm probably putting him in the game earlier than when he's been getting in of late. So we'll keep an eye on that, of course, as the season goes along. But considering the Warriors are really lacking for perimeter defenders right now, they need Will Richard. And there was this one moment. Let's see if I can find it here on Twitter really quickly. I forget who he was defending. I want to get this right because it might have been Shepherd. Maybe it was Nembhard. Let's see if I can find it here. He made a really, really good defensive play. And okay, here it is. Let me describe this to you. So it's in the second quarter, final 3 minutes of the second quarter. This was also, by the way, kind of when the Warriors went on that quick little run in the second quarter. Will Richard is defending off the ball, and it is... Actually, that might be Jeremiah Robinson-Earl on the drive. Yeah, I think it is. Anyways, so Will Richard's in the right corner defensively. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is his guy. The ball's on the left wing. And as the ball kind of gets driven into the paint from the top of the key off of a pick and roll, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Will Richards' man, moves from the right corner to the right wing. Will Richards, seeing man and ball, adjusts, but kind of is a little late getting out and has to kind of really quickly close out on Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, who catches it on the right wing and has an opportunity, he thinks, to shoot a three. But Will Richard closed out so quickly that he took away the three-point shot. But when that happens, you oftentimes get these crazy, wild closeouts that then allow the ball handler to either just, drive right past you or give you the up fake and then drive right past you. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl thought that's what he could do, and he caught it in one motion, began to drive as Will Richard is still racing out to get to him to take away the three-point shot. And instead of getting blown by, Will Richard moves his feet beautifully, cuts off Jeremiah Robinson-Earl's drive at the free throw line. He then has to spin back to the right side and puts up a little fadeaway shot from 8 feet out, and Will Richard there is right in his face and gets a great contest and forces a miss. It's things like that is why the Warriors lost the game in Sacramento. It was Dennis Schroeder who killed the Warriors, getting into the paint over and over and over again. This is obviously just one play. We can pick and choose and find moments where anybody gets beat, of course. I wanted to just point that moment out specifically because that was a moment where Will Richard maybe drifted a little too far away from him or let his matchup drift a little too far away from him. As a result, had to race out on the closeout. And when that happens, usually you get beat off the dribble, but he did not get beat off the dribble there. Really moved his feet well, stayed in front and forced the miss. I thought that was eye-opening considering that is exactly the Warriors' biggest weakness defensively. And Will Richard showed that he was really, really good at that. So on that particular instance. Now, he has gotten beat. Of course, everyone gets beat. Basketball is a really tough game, and today's NBA is very hard to defend. But Will Richard shows that he has the ability. And just frankly, there's not a lot of Warriors that have that ability. Will Richard is one of them. Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more to get into. We got to talk about Jonathan Kuminga. Struggled again tonight, and it's one game. I would imagine he's going to start again on Tuesday in OKC. He did not play the entire fourth quarter. Essentially played his first stint in the third quarter, and that was it the rest of the game. We got to talk about why. We got to talk about his recent play. And we got more to get into as well as we continue. It's Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you. The Dubs knock off the Pacers 114-83, and the Warriors are back above 500 at 6-5. Randy with you, live from Chase Center. More Warriors Wrap-Up next on 95.7 The Game.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10, $20, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-894-7722. That's 800-894-7722. Again, 800-894-7722.
Every morning, we rise and shine, make breakfast, and brush away the night's rest. These routines help us start the day off right. Nature Made vitamins are a simple step in that daily care regimen. Multivitamins with daily essentials, clinically studied probiotics for gut health support, magnesium to help relax the body. Nature Made is made to care for you every day. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Too many tools, too much stress, and way too many bills.
Odoo replaces it all. One connected platform for every part of your business, so you can work faster, smarter, and for less. Odoo, the only software you'll ever need. Try it free today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Elevate your kitchen at the Miele Innovation Center at Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill. Out of your dreams and into your kitchen. Select the qualifying built-in kitchen appliance package that is right for you. With unrivaled technology and luxury-grade quality, when you bring home a Miele, you're bringing home true innovation. Now, for a limited time, save up to 10% with the purchase of a qualifying Miele kitchen package. Visit the Miele Innovation Center at Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill or at friedmansappliance.com.
Decisions determine results. So which path do I want to take? Help people in need or stand on the sidelines watching? Worry about how to pay for school or have my education paid for? Push myself and learn new skills or stay the same? My decision is to serve part-time with the Army National Guard, and my results will be life-changing. What will you decide? Go to NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service.
Sponsored by the California Army National Guard. Aired by the California Broadcasters.
Hey, it's your boy Guru. Every time we put a rat on the table during our show, it's brought to you by Atco Pest Control. Atco Pest Control is a family-owned local business proud to provide pest control in the Bay Area for over 35 years. Atco uses natural methods to give you a peace of mind and keep your family out of harm's way. Quality pest control doesn't have to empty your savings either. Don't wait. Go to AtcoPestControl.com for all your pest control needs. They got you covered.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Honey, that flu keeping you up? Did you take NyQuil Intense Flu?
Nah, I got this. Okay, I don't got this.
Yeah, you need NyQuil Intense Flu.
Undo your flu with NyQuil Intense Flu. NyQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms so you can sleep.
You do got this.
NyQuil Intense Flu. The nighttime sniffling, aching fever. Best sleep with the flu. Medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. At Great Clips, we save your haircut details in clip notes, so every member of the highly skilled team knows exactly how to create your signature look. And with our easy-to-use app, you can check in from anywhere and get a ready next text when you're up next for a cut. It's the confidence of a great haircut delivered by a team you trust. Download our app today. Great Clips. It's gonna be great.
Horford Fought the screen, went away from it. Butler calls him back up, and he calls him up, draws a crowd, feeds Moody in the corner, 2 to shoot, gotta go. Moses fades, shot, good, and he hit it. His craziest release of the night, and he buries a 3 and got fouled. Wow. A crossover on Morris, and Morris reached in, got him across the arm as he went up, nailed the 3, and now he's got a chance for a 4-point play.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
That was one of the biggest plays of the day. There's no doubt. Moses Moody, 4-point play, final seconds of the third quarter. That possession was going nowhere, by the way. Moses Moody was trapped in the right corner in front of his bench, a couple of defenders around him. Moses Moody isn't like the guy I think of when I think of off-the-dribble, step-back threes. But Moses got that one to go. He created a little bit of space for himself, still got the foul called, and hit the 3 as he fell down to the hardwood in front of his bench. Steph Curry was right behind him, and that got him off his seat. That was probably the most fired up Steph Curry was all game. I saw him react to almost every Al Horford 3. I think he knows how important it is that Al Horford starts getting that shot to go. Al was quoted post-game, by the way, saying, when asked about his 4 3-pointers, saying, quote, Jimmy right away made a clear point to look for me. Jimmy went on to say, when asked about it, that it was very purposeful, that he was looking for Al Horford. There's no doubt that Al Horford's importance is very clear to this Warriors team, very, very evident to this Warrior team. But yeah, that Moses Moody shot was huge. And he had himself overall, a pretty nice game. He was 4 for 11 from the field, 3 for 9 from downtown, 13 points. Again, was a plus 22. All the players that had the gigantic plus minuses, they were the ones that were on the floor for that stretch, late third, early fourth, which makes sense. They deserve credit for it. It was a lot of Will Richard and Moses Moody and Podziemski and Jimmy Butler. There was some Quentin Post mixed in there. Draymond Green, of course, was a part of it as well. But that was the stretch that won the Warriors the basketball game, and maybe no singular play more valuable than that Moses Moody 4-point play. But I brought it up because he was kind of struggling up to that point. Moses Moody, before that 4-point play, had 7 points, essentially through 3 quarters, was 2 for 8 from the field, and 2 for 7 from downtown. Not a great performance through 3 quarters. Then hit that 4-point play, made a couple more buckets in the fourth quarter, ultimately finishes with those 13 points, and the Warriors cruise to victory late in the game. Despite it being close through nearly 3 full quarters, they ultimately win. 114-83 is the final. One thing that does stand out, though, from this game was the way that Jonathan Kuminga was used. Jonathan Kuminga tonight started and played 20 minutes and 22 seconds. Here's how he got up to those minutes today. He started the game, played the first 6.5 of the first quarter. Then he subs back in with 7:40 to go in the second, so he just sat for about 4.5 minutes of basketball. Played the rest of the half, so he played the final 7:40, which means he played a little more than 14 minutes through the first half. So on pace for, right around 28 minutes, which struck me at halftime. It also struck me in the Denver game, the way that his minutes are being managed. He's, generally speaking, not even eclipsing 30 minutes per game is what's happening with Jonathan Kuminga. He played 36 against Sacramento. Now, he had it going offensively, but you look at his last 4 games, 25 minutes played, 27 minutes played, 20 minutes played, and then that game against Sacramento, 36 minutes played. Some of it, of course, is how he's playing, and that's what tonight was. Tonight was, you don't have it tonight, JK. Others do. You're not playing in the fourth quarter. That's why he played only 20 minutes tonight, despite the fact that he was on pace for 28. My whole point is in a game without Steph Curry, it feels like this is a night where Kuminga is needed to do a lot. And obviously the Warriors won without Kuminga having a gigantic impact. He had 5 points, 1 for 9 from the field, 0 for 5 from downtown. I thought he settled for the 3-point shot a little bit too often. Now, he was very active on the glass. I give him all the credit in the world for that. Had 8 boards, had a couple of assists, only turned the ball over once in his 20-plus minutes played. But I just think it's interesting the way that his minutes are being scheduled. Given that Steph Curry was out, you kind of just think naturally this is a game where Kuminga is going to have a little bit more of an opportunity. Now, I also get, I don't think it's fair to say that his role is being yo-yoed around, but I do feel for Kuminga because the whole message this entire offseason was do the small things, find a way to fit in alongside Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, and you're going to play a lot, you're going to have a big impact. And now Steph goes down, and all of us are like, well, okay, JK, time to score 26 points. That's not the easiest thing in the world to adjust from one to, the next thing. I will also say what Draymond Green said. This is an article from The Athletic written by Nick Friedel, our Warriors insider here on 95.7 The Game. And I just want to read this to you. This is a quote from Draymond Green in Nick Friedel's article. This is the first time JK has played this amount of minutes. Our schedule, it's been complete bleep. And you're playing the amount of minutes you're playing. You're being relied on night in and night out, and you're playing more games in the amount of days than you've ever played. So it's a whirlwind. I'm sure his head's spinning, but A, this is what he wanted, and B, he's cut out for it. So I understand maybe what is being asked of him is a challenge. There's no doubt about it. But this is also, what he signed up for and what he so desperately wanted. The opportunity on nights like tonight to not take over, but be a whole lot, more involved offensively. And he was 1 for 9 from the field today and 0 for 5 from downtown. Now in his last 2 games, he's 4 for 19 from the field and 0 for 7 from deep. This felt like a game where he should have had a ton of opportunities to get out and run in transition, to cut, to slash, to find his way to double-digit points just based on that alone, based on how Will Richard did it today. He scored 15 points on 8 field goal attempts. Will Richard was always around the rim today, got a bunch of his buckets in the paint, and then got to the free throw line 8 times. The way that Kuminga was playing to begin the season and how he's played the last couple of games, those two don't really compute for me. So I'm keeping an eye, like I have been all season, on Jonathan Kuminga because we have kind of entered the second stage of Kuminga's season. The first stage was, oh my God, I have never seen him play like this over the course of 5 or 6 or 7 games. And now over the last 3 or 4 games, it's okay, we got to get right back on track here because there's been some turnovers. There's been settling, I think, for too many threes. And just in general, there's been a lack of involvement on offense. And when Steph's out, I have a hard time understanding why that could possibly be the case. The lack of involvement offensively. And some of it isn't on Kuminga. Some of it is also like, let's get the guy the ball in good spots, like what happened at the end of the first half where he, over the course of 4 possessions, posted up twice and got 3 points out of those 2 post-ups, 1 a bucket and 1 free throws, and he split them. So some of it is on the Warriors getting him the ball, but also some of it is on Kuminga continuing to stay engaged. And when he's in the corner in the dunker spot, cutting baseline off of a Draymond drive or a Jimmy Butler drive and making yourself available, as Will Richard did a couple of times, by the way. So I don't know. It's interesting the way that Kuminga is playing of late, and Steve Kerr is telling you don't play well, you're not going to play a lot. Again, he played just 20 minutes today in this game. He played the first 6 minutes of the third quarter, then sat for the final 18. And by the way, like this is part of the reason why he did not play. It wasn't just that he wasn't having a great game, but when he sat, the Warriors dominated. Jonathan Kuminga checked out with the Warriors up by 1, 59-58. 59-58 Warriors, 5:56 to go in the third quarter. The Warriors outscored Indiana by 30 points the rest of the way. 59-58 Warriors. Kuminga checked out, did not play over the final 18 minutes. Over those final 18 minutes, the Warriors outscored the Pacers by 30. Again, this is not all Kuminga goes out, good things happen. Of course not. This is others had it going, but I think the point is, and this is, again, a message to Kuminga, is if you're not playing, up to the level that you showed you can play at to begin this season, you're not going to play in important moments. And tonight there wasn't like a There wasn't real closing time because the game was over with like 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. The game shifted incredibly quickly, so there wasn't real closing time. But I guarantee you, if the Warriors, instead of leading by 30 and putting the game away, say they got the lead up to 15, and then it kind of was hanging around 12 or 11 with 6 minutes left, I don't think, based on the way that Kuminga played, that he was coming back in to close the game. So he's got to get back to what he was doing early in the season, which was, one, still what he's doing rebounding-wise, but it was also timing his cuts well. It was, I think, being a little more engaged and connected defensively. But we'll see. There's no doubt the Warriors have a different feel to them when Kuminga is clicking. In the last couple of games, he hasn't been clicking. But we'll see what happens in OKC. On Tuesday, the Warriors will need him in OKC. There's no doubt that athleticism, that length, that quickness that OKC throws at you. I mean, the best defender the Warriors can put on Shea is probably Kuminga. SGA has scored, I think, 30 points in 7 straight games or something. The Warriors need to put a combination of quickness and length on him, and immediately that's Jonathan Kuminga. We're probably going to see some Moses Moody on him. I would imagine we might see some Will Richard on him, but it's probably Kuminga who's going to get the task of defending SGA to begin the game on Tuesday, and we'll see if he's up for the task. That's a really difficult task. No one is going to say Kuminga played terribly defensively if Shea gets 30. That's what Shea does, but you got to make it tough on him. And we'll see how Jonathan Kuminga does in that regard. All right. Warriors win this one 114-83. 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. Final couple of minutes with you here on Warriors Wrap Up. Again, if you want to give us a call, do so now. We're going to wrap things up here in just a little bit. 888-957-9570. This was a absolute gotta-have-it game for the Warriors. Again, what's coming up? You're at OKC on Tuesday, at San Antonio Wednesday. That's a really tough back-to-back. Not crazy travel from OKC to San Antonio, but in terms of opponents, yikes. Your first matchup with the new and improved Victor Wembanyama right after you play the defending champion Thunder, and both of those are on the road. Those are not going to be easy games on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then a day off. You can spend an off day in San Antonio. As far as off day in NBA cities, San Antonio probably is the bottom 10 of the list, would be my guess. But you have an off day in San Antonio, then you play again coming up versus the Spurs on Friday after that day off Thursday. In New Orleans a week from today on Sunday. In Orlando on Tuesday of the following week. And then the next day another back-to-back at Miami on Wednesday, November 19th. That is the 6-game road trip for the Warriors. Then they return home for 5 games at home. Portland, Utah, Houston, New Orleans, and Oklahoma City. Really, the really tough stretch of the Warriors season that so many people are talking about is the rest, or is this 6-game road trip coming up. Once that 6-game road trip ends, the Warriors do get, some consistent homestands. There's fewer back-to-backs. The schedule does kind of open up for them. They just got to get through these next 6 games, and specifically the next 3, because the next 3 are against really good opponents. The final 3 of the road trip again: Orlando, Miami, New Orleans, Orlando, Miami. Not gimmies by any stretch. Orlando's a good basketball team. Miami is not bad. New Orleans is kind of a joke. You're going to see Jordan Poole, though. You're going to see Kevon Looney. But really, you get just... I think the goal for the Warriors, honestly, on the road trip should be to go... I don't think anyone would be upset at a 3-3 road trip with those opponents and those back-to-backs. Win 1 of the first 3, take 1 of the San Antonio games, and then take 2 of the 3 of New Orleans, Orlando, and Miami. Go 3-3. Come back home a game over 500. Get some home cooking going against Portland and Utah, and then see where you're at that point. We'll see how it all plays out, but this 6-game road trip is kind of like the cutoff point of this really tough opening part of the schedule for the Warriors, and we'll see where they're at once that road trip comes to an end. It's over the course of this coming week and the first half of next week. We'll see where the Warriors are in about 10 days from now after that game in Miami on November 19th. Okay, That'll do it for Warriors Wrap-Up tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Mark Randy. Thank you to our guys behind the glass, Steven Risotto and Cam Williams. Cam running the ship as always. Also, Steven Risotto apparently was at our station all day today. For those of you that are going to tune in bright and early tomorrow morning with the morning roast at 6 a.m., just know all of the sound that you hear, whether it's Warriors post-game sound or whether it's, Shanahan talking after that rough Niner loss to the Rams, all of that courtesy our guy Steven Risotto back behind the glass. Also, of course, Cam Williams running this Warriors broadcast. Yes, Pasta deserves a round of applause for that. And great work, as always, to my guy Cam Williams, making me sound good here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Okay, that'll do it for me. Live from Chase Center. Thank you so much for tuning in. A Warrior dub, 114-83 is the final score. It was close, 65-65 late third quarter. Then the Warriors outscore the Pacers 49-18 the rest of the way, and they head out on the road with a victory and back above 500 at 6-5. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you had a great weekend. We'll talk tomorrow. My name is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks for listening right here on 95.7 The Game.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Some people just know you can save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check if they're going for it on 4th down, before going to the concession stand.
Yeah, give me 3 hot dogs, 2 jumbo touchdown, baby! What?
Hey, buddy, you want cheese with those?
Yeah, checking first is smart.
No.
So check Allstate first and see what you could save. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Potential savings vary, including based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate North American Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Tune in to 95.7 The Game this Monday for Monster Mondays, where they discuss the red and gold, how they played, and where they're heading for the next game. Presented by Merit America. Visit them at meritamerica.org/super.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877 Cards for Kids. Donate your card today.
1-877 Cars for Kids.